Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Creation Laboratory, where science and the Bible work together to illustrate truths of our marvelous Creator. To assist me today is Miss Sally.
Hi.
Well, today we have a simple experiment that will help us as we discuss self-esteem. Sally, do you know what self-esteem is?
No.
Well, self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves. You see, when we take a look at ourselves, both on the outside and on the inside, we make a judgment of our own worth. Our self-esteem may change from day to day. One day we may have a high self-esteem, and the next day we may have a very low self-esteem, where we don't like ourselves very much. Our experiment today will help us better understand how we can have a positive self-esteem. Sally, what do we need for today's experiment?
We need a cup of water, a black marker, and a coffee filter.
Yes. Now, if we are going to try this experiment at home, be sure to use a non-permanent, non-washable black marker. And as always, conduct your experiment with adult supervision. Okay, Sally, let us begin preparing our experiment. For our purposes here in the lab, why don't we cut out the center of the coffee filter so everyone at home can see it more clearly? Do you like coffee?
No.
That's unfortunate. I love coffee.
I bet you do.
I drink it out of my beakers. Well, excellent. Now, let's place the filter on the plate, and with our marker, color a circle about the size of a quarter into the center. Wonderful. Our black circle isn't very appealing, is it?
Nope.
Well, you see, this circle represents our poor self-esteem. Too often we compare ourselves to those around us and feel that we don't compare very well. We see people who are better looking than we are. We see people who are smarter than us, funnier, maybe more athletic or more popular. The list goes on. And the more we compare, the more we begin to feel that we are just an unimportant, unimpressive spot in this world. But that is not how God views us. Let us complete our experiment, and I will explain more. Sally, in just a moment we're going to place several drops of water into our circle. But, as always, we must come up with our hypothesis. What do you think will happen when we draw drops of water into the spotted filter?
I think the marker will spread all over the paper.
Very interesting. Well, what about you, children? What is your hypothesis? What do you think will happen when water is put on our spot? Well, Sally, it's time to conduct our experiment and see if we are correct. You may now use the liquid dropper and place several drops of water onto the circle that you colored on the filter. And if you don't have a dropper at home, you can carefully pour a tiny amount of water onto your circle. Well, very, very good. Now, what do you notice about the black spot?
Well, it actually sort of disappeared.
So, it turns out our spot had something quite beautiful hidden inside, didn't it?
Yep.
Well, and it is very true in each of us as well. You see, God sees great worth in each one of us. Why? Well, first of all, we're all created in the image of God. In Genesis 1:27, it says, "So God created man in his own image, and in the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them." God created us in a way that reflects who he is. We are able to sense the world around us, to think and make decisions, to have emotions, and most importantly, to love. Just like we are similar to our parents in appearance and mannerisms, so we also reflect the personality of God, because he made us in his image. God also values us because he made each of us unique, and for a very specific purpose. When Jeremiah questions his worth, God reminds him of this. He says in Jeremiah 1:5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations." God designed Jeremiah specifically for the purpose God had chosen him, and God did the same for each and every single one of us. We too were perfectly designed by God so that we have the ability to do what He has called us to do in our lives. Finally, we see how much God values us through Jesus. In Luke chapter 15, Jesus tells 3 parables, illustrating how every single person is important to God. And not only did Jesus talk of God's love for us, but He also shows His love for us. In Romans 5:8 it says, "But God demonstrates His own love towards us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." Jesus loved us so much that He gave His life so that we can be cleansed from our sin and live with Him in eternity. We are worth that much to Him, and if God sees that much value in us, shouldn't we also recognize that value? Sally, hold that filter up so that we can see the colors. Remarkable. All that beauty hidden inside. So, were we correct in our hypothesis?
Sort of.
Yes. And what about you, children? Were you correct in your hypothesis? And what conclusion can we make? When we compare ourselves to others, we may appear to be an ordinary spot. But when we begin to look at ourselves the way God looks at us, we begin to see the beauty and worth that is in each and every single one of us. Well, thank you, Sally, for helping me today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for visiting us here at Creation Lab. I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye!